Hello everyone, welcome back for episode 4 of the Microsoft AZ-800 series. On today's agenda, we've got quite a few cool topics that we're going to be taking a look at. The first of which is how or where can we go about creating ourselves user accounts and groups, more specifically in Active Directory, not on your local computer, Active Directory. Now, for those of you that's been following the series so far, you would know Active Directory is software that's installed on server, and this is achieved by adding a role on server called the ADDS role, which stands for Active Directory Domain Services. Now, the second main objective we're going to be looking at in today's video is organizational units, or OUs for short. This is basically a fancy name for a fancy folder in Active Directory. These fancy folders, however, have fancy features, so that's why we call them OUs. So we're going to be taking a look at what they are and how we can actually make use of them and benefit from them. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, do me a solid and smash that like button. And if you'd like to know when the next episode for AZ-800 gets released, feel free to smash that subscribe button as well, of the notification bell. At least then you'll know when I upload more videos for this series. And all that's left to do here is for us to go and jump in. Okay, so let's start at the beginning, creating users and groups in Active Directory. Now, for this video, I'm going to be on a virtual machine most of the time, which has Server 2019 installed. For those of you that's been watching the previous videos, this is the exact same virtual machine I used in the previous video, where we went and added the Microsoft ADDS role onto Server 2019. So we're just going to carry on where we left off last. So here we go. Alrighty folks, here we are on that Server 2019 virtual machine. Now, in the previous episode, for those of you that's been watching, you would remember we added the ADDS role and the DNS role. Now, we have not done anything after that. We promoted it, we installed the role, we promoted it, and that was about the extent of it. Today, we're going to go ahead and create user accounts and groups in that Active Directory. So for those of you that don't know what Active Directory is, it is software installed on a server which allows you to create user accounts and groups for your company in your domain. So when people go to the office in the morning and they log on to that company account, that is where it's hosted. It is hosted in your Active Directory software on your server. So where do you actually access this? Where do I go and create these accounts? You're going to go to the top right hand side here in tools, and just so by the way, this is the server manager which pops up automatically if you just installed server. If it does not, you can click on the icon on the taskbar if it's there. If it is not, you can go here to start, bottom left, and you can launch it from there. That will effectively launch the server manager, and on the left you should have an indication whether this role has been installed or not. So we're going to go to the top right hand side here to tools, and there's an option here that says Active Directory users and computers. Now that is the way we've been doing it for the last decade or more, I should say. But ever since 2016 of server, well, it might actually be from 2012 or 2 of server, you have this extra gizmo here called Active Directory Administrative Center. That is actually another way you can go about creating user accounts and groups. Now, most technicians, such as myself, tend to go and use the old school way because it's still there and that's the way we're used to. So I'm going to go and click on that. And here we are. Now, what we see here on the left-hand side, that is your domain. In my case, that's my domain called burningicetech.com, which we made in the previous episodes. So usually in most companies, you'll only find one domain there. There is a chance there might be more than one domain. Some companies do in fact have more than one. It's unlikely, but not impossible. Now this is as default as it gets, obviously excluding my domain name. Yours is obviously just going to be a different name. Other than that, this is as default as it gets. These default built-in folders, these are folders by the way, these are not the OUs I was referring to. The ones that's made by server automatically are called containers. So that's as default as it gets. These icons here we've got here on the right hand side that looks like they've got two people in them, those are groups, built-in groups. Now realistically, most of us are never going to go and use these groups. The only ones you're really going to go and use is maybe the administrators group. That's realistically the only one you're really going to go and use. Now, you're going to use a lot of groups, don't get me wrong, but most of them are going to be groups you're going to make yourself. You can see there's my one user because the icon looks different. That's my main administrator account. And for the most part, that's kind of the only account besides the guest account. Guest account's got a little icon on it that shows a little black down arrow that points down. That means it's simply been disabled. Now, if you would like to go and create yourself a user account, you can go and do it here if you want to, or you can go make yourself some custom folders on the left-hand side here, which are called OUs. Still getting to that. You can go and create them in that custom folder, which is maybe a certain department or a certain branch. You could go make them here, and you can always just go and move them later on. So for now, I'm going to make them here because I have not explained OUs yet. If you'd like to know what that is, you're going to have to go and click on that timestamp or just stay tuned. Now, how do you create a user? You can either right click here on the blank space, hover your mouse cursor where it says new, and there's an option here that says user. That's one way. Another way would be to go and right click on the relevant folder, container, or organizational unit, and then here you just go to new and then user. They effectively do the same thing. So it's a potato situation. I'm going to go ahead and click on user. A new little wizard pops up here, and let's just drag that down a little bit here. Here you get to specify this new person's name and last name. So this could be an employee, it could be a member, it could be anything. So it's most likely going to be a new person that just got hired. So I'm going to go ahead and call this Tristan blank. I'm making it up, sucking out of my thumb. Now here at the bottom, you specify what that person will type in the morning to be able to log onto their machine, assuming that machine has been joined to this domain, being Burning Ice Tech in my situation. So you could go ahead and maybe just type in the person's name. That only works for very small organizations. I do not encourage you to go and do that because if someone else happens to have that same name, you could very well end up with a conflict of some sort, and that's not nice. So you might be better off using this person's name and last name, or the person's name with the first letter of their last name, or the person's last name with the first letter of their first name. Some companies will even go and use an employee number. So either or will suffice. Let's just call it Tristan for now. Tristan B maybe. Next. Here you specify the person's password. In most cases, this password is going to be a temporary password. So it doesn't really have to be that complicated. The first time this person logs on, it's going to ask this individual for that password. So this person is now called Tristan. So the first time Tristan logs on, it's going to ask him or her for this password we're about to specify. And once they provide that password, it's going to prompt them to change their password and choose a new one. So you can see that's the default option. That box here is ticked. It says user must change password at next logon. That is currently the default, and that is actually the default in most companies. So I encourage you to leave that on unless your company's policies dictate otherwise. You could alternatively go and choose an option here. It says user cannot change password. We don't normally go and choose that. The only time we do that is if it's an account that's not used by a user, or if it's an account maybe like an administrator account. So there's probably going to be a good reason for that. We don't normally choose that. That's the point. Password never expires. It's also normally an account used by a printer or a scanner or a synchronization of some kind. Maybe it's to synchronize your Azure Active Directory to your on-premises Active Directory. So that's generally not used by a human. It could also possibly be an admin account once again. Lastly, this last option here is to have an account disabled. It's unlikely you'll find someone creating a brand new account and disabling it right off the bat. Usually people go and select an existing account of an existing employee or member and then go and disable it. Most commonly this is because the person has resigned, they no longer work for this company, or they are currently on leave, or just unable to work for whatever reason. Maybe they're in the hospital for all we know. Now, I have seen situations where people will go and choose that in the beginning, but it's unlikely. It's usually because it's a template. So I'm going to go and create a user account as a template. And the next time I need to go and create a user account, I'm going to use this account as a template of sorts. More on that later. Not in this video though. That's going to be in a different video. So let's go choose a password. I'm just going to go and choose a random 8-character password. Oops, wrong typo. It has to be minimum 8 characters, uppercase, lowercase, numbers and symbols, obviously, the usual blah blah. So that is the default. You can go and change that. You can make it less or more. Normally we make it even more complicated and even more characters. But by default, servers have a requirement, a complexity requirement for password, which means minimum 8 characters length, has to contain one uppercase, one lowercase, one symbol, and one number. So at the end of the day, it's not going to be a word of any kind, and that's what we want. I'm going to go ahead and click on next, finish, and there we go. We just created ourselves a new user. Now this user is just a random user. He or she is not in any department or any branch of any kind. The person will, however, be able to log on. First time they log on, it's going to ask this individual to change their password. You as the admin have all kinds of power over this person, depending on what privilege you have. At the moment, I am logged in as the main administrator. I'm the main cheese. So I've got the ability to go right click on this individual, and I can do all kinds of things. I can go to properties here, and I can see all kinds of aspects about this person and their account. I can delete them. I can go and copy their account, make a template of their account. I can add them to a group, or I can go to a group and add them that way. I can disable their account, or I can reset their password here without knowing the original password. So just because this person called Tristan has changed their password, it does not mean I cannot go and reset their password now. At any point in time, I have the ability to go and change your password without knowing the original. And I need to, if you think about it. What if Tristan comes into my office one day and says, "Oh, I've locked myself out, boo-hoo." That happens at all companies. Then you can simply go and do this, reset the person's password, and they can go and log on, and if needed, go change their password again. So you do have that ability. All right, now where and how do we go about creating groups? It's the same places. You can go right click on the blank space here, new group, or alternatively right click on the relevant container or folder or OU, new group. So it's the same as the user. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Choose a name for this group. Now you're going to have to go and put some thought into this. How do you intend on structuring this environment? Why do you want to create this group? So maybe I've got a sales department and I would very much like to have a group in the sales department called sales. So let's call this sales. And this will in turn allow me to go and add all my sales department people into a group called sales. The reasons we do that is just for management purposes. It's going to allow you to go and do what we call bulk operations. So if I need to go and apply some sort of setting or permission or something, am I really going to want to go to each and every user account and go and configure that? Probably not. So wouldn't it be much easier if I could just go and chuck all of those people into one group, in this case it's called sales, and then just apply or change that setting for the whole group altogether, which in turn will apply to everybody in that department. That's the idea. So how you use this in the end of the day is up to you, but that's the general principle. I'm going to go click on OK. And there we go. So we've got a user account and we've got at least one group. This is, however, in the default location, which is not normally what we would go and do. So that leads us to our next topic, which is organizational units, or OU for short. Now, this is obviously going to be those fancy folders we spoke of earlier in Active Directory. So let's go have a peek. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to ignore that user account for a moment, and we're going to ignore that group for a moment, the ones that we just created. And we're going to go create ourselves those folders I've been bragging about so much, the OUs. Now, how do I do that? You can go right click on your domain, in my case, Burning Ice Tech, hover your mouse cursor over the option that says new, and you'll notice there's an option here. It says organizational unit, or OU for short. So I'm basically going to go and create myself a folder, is what we're saying. So if I click on that, what do I want to call that folder? This looks very complicated, but it's actually as easy as it gets. It's basically just a folder. So I'm going to pretend this is a whole branch. So my company has more than one branch. So let's just say NY for New York. I'm going to click on OK. And there we go. That is now officially a branch for my company called New York City. I should probably have labeled that NYC, New York City. You will notice the icon is slightly different. That's actually a folder icon inside a folder, if I'm not mistaken. So I've got branch. There's nothing in there. If I click on that, you can see there's absolutely nothing going on here. So I think let's go create about 2 or 3 to go and put in some context to this. So I'm going to go and make another one here. New organizational unit, Tokyo. Okay. One more for good measure. Organizational unit, Paris. I'm sucking this out of my thumb as I'm going along. There we go. We've got ourselves 3 branches. These are obviously international since they're in various countries. And what I can go and do now is I have the option to go and choose how I want to structure this. You're only limited by your imagination. Yes, I'm not even kidding right now. So I can go and right click on that branch being New York now. Right click, new, once again, organizational unit. So this is basically the same principle as on your computer where you would go and make a folder inside of a folder. And if you really want, you can go make a folder inside that folder and a folder inside that folder. I think you get the idea. So the same applies here. I'm going to go ahead and make organizational units inside of organizational units and then maybe even more inside of that. This is to structure my company. I'm not going to do this for all the branches because that's going to take too long, and I think you guys will get the general idea if I show you one branch. So let's go and make that. Inside this branch, what will we have? I'm going to keep this as simple as possible, so we'll probably have various departments. So let's go call this the sales department. This is not a group. This is a folder. So this is the actual department. I'm going to click on OK. Here we go. So we've got ourselves a sales department. I'm not going to make a lot, just a few, just to show you the principle. We will probably have ourselves an IT department there. So let's make an IT department. And what else will we have? Let's go and check it out. We will probably have a need for some form of HR department. And then I'll maybe make one more for good measure. We can probably go and add a lot all day, but I think this is going to suffice for now. There we go. I could probably go and add finance and all that, but that's besides the point. So there we go. We've got ourselves various departments. At the moment, there's still nothing going on here. If I click on one of these departments, I see absolutely nothing. So what I could go and do is I can go and right click in this department and I can go to new, and instead of just making another department, I could go and make a user or a group. Now what I've seen some companies will go and do is they'll go and make 2 more. I'm just going to do this inside one department. 2 more OUs inside of a department. One is called users and the other will be called computers respectively. Here we go, computers. It's your choice if you want to go and do it this way. So now what's going to happen here is in each department in that branch, you will have a users organizational unit and a computers organizational unit, a folder for each. So all the users in your IT department, their accounts and those groups will be in that folder or that OU called users. And any computers, laptops and desktops and things like that, that will be in this OU. So this is simply to help you manage each department easier. So if I've got certain permissions and policies or just tweaking I want to do, which is only relevant to certain people in a certain department, you can go and click that OU. So that is the purpose of group policies, which is another topic in a different video. So maybe I'll make that the next episode. You never know. So with regards to group policies, there's over 3,000 settings you can go and configure for your users and their devices. This could include, but it's not limited to, blocking things, allowing things, turning things on and off, or just general tweaking. I can, for example, go and change the desktop background for all my people, or I can just do it for a certain department. So if I would like to have the IT people in the IT department have a certain wallpaper on the desktop, I can go and apply that group policy to this OU. I can link it right here, right there. You're not going to do it in this little console, obviously. You're going to do it somewhere else. But I'm going to link it to that OU right there. And it's going to only apply to that users group inside the IT department. So that's one of the benefits of having yourself an OU. So I could go and make myself, users and computers in each side of these departments. So let's just go and make ourselves a new user here. User. Let's call this Mary Joe. Mary J. There we go. Give it a new password. I'm not going to make a lot. I think you guys are going to get the idea here. So let's just go and type in that password. I keep forgetting that it's 8 characters. Next. Next. And there we go. So we've got ourselves a new person. And this person is obviously in the users folder inside IT inside the New York branch. So that it's safe to say that this person is an IT individual. He or she, that looks like a she, is an IT person. A high rank or a low rank, we don't know. Now, what you can go and do at a later stage is you can go and delegate permissions to some IT individuals, like Mary in this case. I can go and delegate permissions, giving him or her special privileges for certain departments or a whole branch for that matter. Now, I alone am only one person. It's impossible at some stage, it's going to get to a point where I can impossibly not manage all of these branches all on my own. So even if it just comes to managing, like simple things like resetting passwords and creating accounts, all that, it is a painstaking process, and it's just gonna be too much work. So you're gonna need some helpers, some help, and you can go now to each branch here, specifically the IT department in most cases, and I can go look for people here that I know, that I trust, that are loyal, and that I feel has earned the privilege now. I can go here to Mary Jo, and I can go and give Mary more privilege, and I can have her go and reset passwords for people on this branch. And depending on how much I trust an individual, I can even give them more privilege, not just resetting passwords. But Mary will only be able to do that for certain departments or for this branch. As soon as Mary goes to any other department or any other branch here, he or she will not have that privilege. It's going to fall away. So delegating privileges is something we're going to cover in a different video. Otherwise, this video is going to get too long. But that is one of the benefits you will also have with regards to OUs. Alright guys, so I think that pretty much explains what user accounts are, groups are, and what organizational units are. If you are by any chance brand spanking new to server, or at the very least Active Directory, let's say you've never done this before, you've never seen this before, please drop a comment down below and let me know. I would very much like to know who of you guys are new and if you've actually learned something. If you learned something, let me know what you've learned. It's always nice to hear what you guys learned in the videos. Alternatively, feel free to drop a random comment down below saying banana milkshake. So that's today's code word. So in some videos, I'll go and drop a code word. Today's code word is banana milkshake. Just drop the comment down below saying banana milkshake, and then I know you watched the whole video. Alright guys, so all that's left to do is to give the video a like. Like usual, I do appreciate that because it does help my video and it does help my channel. And also, like usual, if you would like to know when I go and upload new content, you know what to do. It's that little red button down below. So yeah, guys, that is today's episode. I will see you guys on episode 5.
If you love me, let me know. If you don't, then let me